"Can you improve your stats by hitting the training dummy?" asked a dark-skinned ranger. "Huh? Yes, that's right, you can," said the knight. "Then why don't you keep hitting a training dummy instead of hunting to raise your level?" asked the ranger. The knight Pluto was considerably high-leveled, so he had good information from reliable sources. He was also the only person who could correctly guess the reason for Weed's actions. If a character uses up their stamina, their vitality and stamina develops. If a wizard casts a lot of spells, their wisdom and intelligence rises. But this increase is trivial compared to the number of stat points gained from leveling up. Half a day of hitting a training dummy without a rest would yield 1 or 2 stat points. Considering that the number of stat points rewarded from a level up is 5, what Weed did was silly. It really is silly. A sorceress shook her head when she heard Pluto's explanation, but Pluto disagreed. "It works," Pluto said. "Excuse me? You can earn only a few experience points if you kill a weaker monster than your current level, right?" "Of course. In other words, the higher your level, the more difficult it is to gain a level. But if you improve your strength by doing drills at the very beginning, hunting monsters becomes easier later on. The effects will be significant throughout the game. You know this method, so you went through the same training. Wouldn't everyone do the same if they knew about it?" "Not really. Even if people knew, no one would do it. Who wants to keep hitting that training dummy for 10 hours to improve their strength by only 1 point? There is a limit to how much you can increase your stats by hitting a training dummy. For strength, it should be around 40 or so. Who would want to keep hitting the training dummy for a month to gain 40 points in strength? I'd get tired of it after a couple of days." The crowd watching Weed nodded in unison. It'd be much more fun to search for an excellent weapon than to strike a training dummy for an entire month to gain 40 points in strength. An item that raises strength by 40 points is uncommon, but far from unobtainable. This only works for newbies who can't go beyond the walls. At one point, it was popular to beat a scarecrow like this. Still, it became obsolete because when you weigh benefits against what you can do in the long run, it's far too boring. Weed heard the discussion people around him were having. He wished he could train somewhere else, but as long as he wasn't allowed to leave the city, he could not avoid attracting attention at the training hall. Was what he was doing boring and not worth the effort? Weed scoffed and continued swinging his wooden sword at full strength. With hard work, your character becomes more powerful, step by step. When your character evolves, it can defeat stronger monsters and make more money. For Weed, this was the ultimate fun. Weed was inherently inclined to routine physical labor. Unbeknownst to Weed, the instructor had been watching over him with glee. To be continued.